back to the business. Means back to the trenches. You ain't even got a mention. I got vision. I got vision. I do. Means back to the business. Means back to the trenches. You ain't even got a mention. I got vision. I got vision. I got vision. What? I got vision. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show, Friday Night Live. I am here with Uncle Juice and JT once again. We got so much we want to cover tonight and so much we have to get into. But I want to give a quick shout out to the Self-Made Sound Studios, which we are coming to you from tonight, and to Hybrid Promotions for sponsoring this show. I'm gonna turn it right over to you guys. Let's get into the biggest story over the past 92 hours. Giannis is now a member of the Heat.
Yeah, I'm just kind of glad that it's finally over with. I feel like you've been hearing Giannis trade rumors forever. But I think it's fun to see him go to Miami. Kind of the thought of him and Bam kind of working down low together, that seems like a pretty imposing duo there. That's a lot of length. So I don't have much on how it kind of impacts Miami's chances overall. I'll kind of let Juice hit on that, but just kind of glad that we're finally figuring out where he's going. It was so anticipated for so long, especially these past few days. So I think everyone's just kind of glad that it finally happened and we know where he's going to move on to.
Yeah, I think it's a good move for Giannis, but my biggest question is what are they going to do at point guard and shooting guard? You got two bigs. Neither one of them are really ball dominant. Giannis is a double waiting to happen. From what I hear, Miami's got a defensive point guard, so they're kind of just expecting him to just play defense and bring the ball up the court and pretty much develop his offensive skills. It's Pat Riley. Pat Riley has a record of combining superstars and turning them into great teams. So if anybody can do it, I would definitely think it would be Pat Riley. My only thing is in the Giannis trade, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a little bit, the ball trade, it's just a lot of picks and those pick swaps can come back to haunt you in the future. Like if we can just go back to like the Kawhi Leonard trade and see, like what or not Kawhi Leonard, the Paul George trade.
Yeah.
And see
Yep.
the
With the
plethora of
Thunder.
players that Oklahoma City Thunder got and made a whole franchise and has won a championship off of one player. So, to me, the trade terms seemingly are a bit egregious, but I mean, for a all-star, I would have tried to figure out a way to get him there with a point guard, but it's Pat Riley. I'm sure he's not done with his maneuvers before the season starts. So I think Miami will be a contender, and nobody is happier than Giannis because he is now in a state where there's no state tax. So now he gets more of his projected salary and has to pay less taxes. And he's in Miami, and Miami is a pretty good franchise as far as building championship caliber teams. So it looks like the Bucks got at least enough, but they really wanted an all-star player or a young player, but there just really wasn't much to give up. So we'll see who wins.
Hence the 3 first-round picks that the Heat surrendered in that deal.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that was because, they wanted a young superstar to build around in Milwaukee, and Miami just didn't have the player capital to provide that.
Well, it's interesting to note that the other team that was kind of in the late stages of this running for Giannis was the Celtics, and it kind of became clear publicly that Jaylen Brown was going to be the guy that was most likely included in that trade. And now that that's kind of leaked out, the Celtics it's leaked out again that it sounds like they're going to have to trade him anyways, because he feels like he no longer wants to be a part of a team that he's seen as an asset rather than like a value.
So the Celtics, they got like new ownership and they want return on investment immediately, which that's not how the NBA works. That's why you kind of seen a fire sale of all the players that they had accumulated during Danny Ainge. But I think at this point you have to trade him because he's been in trade talks for so long. Like it's just going to create toxicity for him to come back to the team next year.
Yeah, and it's I know you said that the Bucks were kind of looking for that kind of that all-star young player to build around. I don't know if Tyler Hero is necessarily that guy. He could be that guy for you for the next couple years to
Yeah, I
put
mean,
up
he's a
decent
20
numbers.
points per game guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's not too shabby.
No, he's not too shabby. He could definitely put some asses in the seats for you. But the bigger thing to kind of look at is those 3 first-round picks that you got out of that trade, to see if maybe you can include that and something else into a package later down the road. We've all played NBA 2K for years now. We know how to game the system, to trade picks for more picks, to trade those picks for a player and kind of build like a dynasty off of that deal. And you're kind of seeing it right now with the Thunder and the Spurs, just kind of consistently lucking out year after year. And that's all it takes at this point until you get to that second apron. And that's, what, 7 years down the road for a couple of these teams.
Well, with those two teams in particular, they're ran very well in their front office. So
Yeah,
they already have good players on the team. They have the
that's a good
luxury
point.
of players that, will plug and play. Or, sometimes they'll just find a situation where they have enough people on the roster and they can just get, what I call a free pick or a fun pick. A guy who's just athleticism or a guy that you're trying to get willing to grow into another superstar because you have an abundance of picks. Like uh Oklahoma City drafted the center from Michigan, and I was just like, how is he even still there at number 12? He's 7'3", and there's only
He's a
one
beast.
stop Giannis. That's another giant big, and he's also from overseas. So I think the Thunder and the Spurs, that's going to be a story that we're going to be reading and watching for the next few years. But I will almost say that the trade that I see on the screen will almost make more sense for the LaMelo Ball trade if you want a young superstar to build a team around. But he ended up in Minnesota. So NBA draft is always weird. You always get a lot of crazy picks. You get people moved that you wouldn't think you would get moved. I never thought that Julian Randle would get traded to Brooklyn for, 2 packs of peanuts and some Slim Jims. But that's the way the NBA draft goes. You trading all stars for second round picks now. So I think pretty soon they'll have to revamp the NBA draft to the point where they're going to have to do something with the second round picks contracts because you get more players coming in the second round that can compete. And the way it is structured now, if you come out, score 15, 20 points in your first season and you're a second round pick, they got to negotiate you a new contract next year.
Yeah, I guess if we're gonna stay in the trade talk here, I guess I totally forgot about the LaMelo Ball trade in all of this. And
Yeah,
I don't have anything prepared for that because it just kind of got swept under the rug with everything else. But like, what are your initial thoughts on LaMelo and Anthony Edwards being in a backcourt together? I, I
Once I see Julius Randle get traded, I knew that they had something brewing in Minnesota. Like you didn't
Yep,
move all that salary
yep,
cap for a reason. And
yep.
LaMelo, he'll pull up from 20, he'll pull up from 30, and they need another ball player who can be ball dominant and get some of the double teams away from Ant-Man. So I don't think anybody is more excited about this other than Ant-Man, just for the fact of spacing on the court. Like you have to guard both of their guards. And if they can get a decent big in the front court, which I'm sure they already have plans for, he was traded for Nas Reed and a boatload of picks.
Yep.
So
They
I'm sure
learned.
they must have somebody that they're like in the mix with that they feel like can fill that Nas Reed role. But with those two in the backcourt, yeah, if you get a decent rebounder in the front court, I think Minnesota is about to roll out some interesting game balls next year.
Yeah, I think they kind of learned their lesson over the last 3 or 4 years that you can't really compete with the bigs down low, because what they tried to do with Nas Reed and Gobert was combat like the Wembies and the Chets of the world and the spacing, and they kind of realized that that wasn't it, and they thought that Randall would be a nice little fit with the way they run their scheme. But I mean, you got to kind of give a credit to the front office of the Timberwolves to realize, hey, if we're going to build around Anthony Edwards, we got to give him a player that he says he wants to be around and build around, and someone that he feels like can be a release valve for him rather than trying to stack up the big men. And
Became a log jam at point guard for Charlotte. They got Knipp right now, and he's a beast. And
yep,
Flow are just too ball dominant to stay on the same team. And by trading LaMelo, you reset, back to the rookie money. So you get yourself some cap space as well. You get Nas Reed. You get there's a bunch of pick
yeah,
swaps involved.
you get a decent veteran and Nas Reed that's been to a Western Conference Finals. That
Yeah.
can teach some of these young guys what what it takes to be a team and what it takes to win, and kind of ascend to that next level. So it was one of the more surprising trades, but we had been hearing about LaMelo getting traded for at least the last 3 or 4 weeks. So to me, it was surprising where he went, but at the same time, it wasn't very surprising.
Yeah, it's probably good for LaMelo too. I heard LeVar and his wife they're split up right now. He can be closer back home. You know what I'm saying, to deal with his family stuff, and he gets a reset. I think Charlotte was good for him. I think it was real good for him to go from the West Coast, basically to the other side of the country, get away from his family, become his own man, kind of thing. And now he can, move to a new town and, kind of be the new hometown hero there, depending on how things work out.
JT, you're gonna go check
Yeah,
out
I just had
some.
two quick things on the LaMelo Ball trade. I do think one draft pick that I like that the Timberwolves had is that they picked up that college basketball fans might know Trey Kaufman-Renn from Purdue, that guy who seemed like he was at Purdue for like 5 years. I think he was literally at Purdue for 5 years. So a good second round pick for the Timberwolves. I don't know if he'll be an immediate impact guy, but when you're looking at kind of what the options are for Minnesota with Nas Reed being out the door, I think you got to look at TKR at being a guy who could potentially contribute early, especially considering how much experience he had in the Big Ten. He might be a little bit more NBA ready than your average second round draft pick. And the other thing I was going to say is that Anthony Edwards might be the most excited person about this trade. The most least excited people about this trade are the people that drive their cars in the city of Minneapolis. They're going to need to have their heads on a swivel. LaMelo Ball, noted not very good driver. He drives like he's in the lobby of a Grand Theft Auto server. So if you drive a car in the Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area, just have your head on a swivel.
Well, that
JT, have
snow
you?
down, brother. I've been to Minnesota. That snow is gonna slow that car down. I
Yeah.
bet you.
Yeah, you better.
I'm just
My
waiting for the memes. I'm just waiting for the memes of that bridge collapse from back in like 08. Melo driving across the bridge or something. It's coming.
Look up for Nas Reed though. It seems like everybody who gets traded for Minnesota goes and wins the championship. Shout out Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised if
Yeah,
Charlotte
man. How
ends up
about once again? Shout out to the Knicks. How about the Knicks for putting on that fine display of ass whooping through the final?
Okay, so I got a question for you fellas since we talking about the Knicks. Do you or do you not think that Spike Lee deserves a championship ring?
I think you got to do it. I think you got to do it. I know he's kind of corny, but he is New York Knicks. I mean, he's been through it, the thick and thin.
Hey, you know,
I can't hate on it too much.
I would have no qualms either way. If you give him a ring, that's cool with me. If you don't give him a ring, I'd be like, all right, are we just I mean, I wouldn't it's not gonna change my life either way, whether or not he gets a ring. But if anyone deserves a ring that's a Knicks fan, it's definitely Spike Lee.
3 people I would give rings if I was the Knicks owner. Spike Lee would be one, Tracy Morgan would be the other, and I think for obvious reasons, Charles Oakley. Charles Oakley might be the only one who gets physically violent if he don't get one. I'm just saying.
Did Charles Oakley and Jim Dolan ever make up? I don't remember if that's happened yet.
I don't think he did. But
I mean, he was allowed back in the arena. So
peace offers in a championship ring. I mean, I think he deserves it. He's one of the people who got in there for years. But yeah, just a thought. I think Spike Lee. I think
I can't believe that whole situation went down.
It's funny how we went from fire Dolan to them winning the championship in like 5 years.
Yeah, that man is rehabilitated.
Hey, you know, maybe he had a coming to Jesus moment and he was like, I gotta figure it the fuck out. Or maybe he gave up his ego and let someone else run the team for him.
Well, yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. He got Leon Rose, which is pretty impressive. You pull Leon Rose out of the ranks of being an agent, not a move that has worked out well in the past, especially in the city of New York. Obviously, the Mets tried their hands at Brody Van Wagenen being their general manager, and that obviously went awful. So, yeah, I think that's really, if you look at, you know, not to discredit Jim Dolan, but it really comes down to the work that Leon Rose has done. What his role is, if he's the GM or the president of basketball ops, but as the architect of this team.
Sometimes the owners just need to get out their own way. Like,
that is true.
Jerry Jones.
Yeah. That's a classic example of one.
Go get a general manager, man. Like, I get it. Everybody plays Madden and thinks they can build a football team. It's really harder to do in real life than you think.
No, we all think we're expert GMs, but you know, at the end of the day, what we do in video games does not always necessarily translate to what real life is. Whether it be bullshit trades in some games or like you get the steal of a lifetime, you know, for no reason. Like in other games.
The off season, you know, we got plenty of time to speculate before they roll balls out. Everybody looks good on paper in the off season, and then you get to regular season, and then somebody's like 0-6, and you're like, oh, they look so good in preseason.
Hey, one question before we got to move on. We got to thank some sponsors after this. But one more question for you guys. Do you think that video game trading becoming, because we're all old enough to remember in the early 2010s, late 2010s, how hard it was to get a trade to go through in like a video game, and now how easy it seems to be to fleece, like if you set the trade up right and you follow the values. Do you think that has anything to do with the current trade value, especially in the NBA of all places? Because we didn't see trades like this until 4 or 5 years ago. Like, there was never 3 first-round draft picks with one player, 4 players involved, and then another role player with the main superstar.
I think with the NBA, it was just a shift in mentality. For a long time, it was like, I'm going to try and trade a superstar for a superstar. And then at a certain point, there was a point where it's like, we're not going to trade you a superstar. You got to get draft picks. And then it becomes a point where it's like, how much is this individual player's value based on future projected people? If this dude is a 5-time, 10-time All-Star now, and we trading him and we're not getting a superstar or a young star in exchange, we have to get a plethora of things to replace this one person. Otherwise, you become what I call the Miami Dolphins. When the Miami Dolphins lost Dan Marino, they've still to this day not gotten a decent quarterback to get them back to. And I think that's because certain players are so woven and embedded into the franchises that when they leave, it's too hard to replace them. But also with modern NBA, I grew up where Charles Barkley was going to be with one team till forever, where this player would be with one team that they were drafted to forever. And these modern players, they don't have the drive that Jordan had to just want to beat everybody. They've been playing with each other since 8, 10, 12 years old. They friends. They want to play with their friends. They want to compete for championships. And why should I sit and play for the Memphis Grizzlies for 15 years and never win anything when I can get traded to LA or to a bigger market and at least compete for a championship?
I think the current, obviously I agree with everything that Juice just said.
That
Those are
is
some
a
great points.
great point.
I think just to add, I think just in general across all sports, the shift in how trades are constructed and when and who they're involved, it comes down to one word, and that's patience. Is that I think that there's just a lot less patience in sports these days. There's
Yes.
a lot more pressure to win now. Kind of like Juice was talking about, you used to have like this expectation, like, oh, like this is what your roster was going to be. This is who your guys were going to be. You would add a couple guys to the draft each year. You would slowly kind of build up and rebuild over 4 or 5 years. But obviously, there's a lot more money in the sports these days. As such, the stakes are a lot higher. Owners have become more demanding. Fans have become more demanding, and I think that leads to just this current environment where you're seeing 3, 4, 5 first round draft picks just getting thrown around like nothing in the NBA, and of course you see it in the NFL as well.
Yeah,
If
you guys don't have anything else to add on to that, I'm going to use that as a chance to kind of promote the hybrid section of that point, to invite everyone to check out the self-made the label hybrid.com, excuse me, to check out some new merch that we got coming out. We got new merch coming out all the time. You can use the code JT, the code SLIM, or the code JUICE to get 15% off your first order. Really, really glad to have these guys on board, doing a lot of good things around Omaha in the music scene. speaking of the music scene, I do want to give a shout out to the SummerSlam showcase as well. While we're thanking some sponsors here, July 11th down at the waiting room. This is day 2 of a 2-day event that they got going on. Shout out to Nice Enough Entertainment for putting this on. The first night is kind of more of like a rock night. This poster you're looking at here is more of the rap and hip hop portion of the night. Selfmade's Brody One is going to be on there, as well as Cody Moon, Eddie North, obviously. There's a Roddy, OGI Kid. Hopefully I said that right. He's going to come at me if I didn't say that right. My apologies, brother. But looking for something to do after the week after the 4th of July, come check them out. It's going to be a big event going on down in the Benson area here in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yes, sir. Get your tickets, get your merch. It's like a third of the summer is already gone. So go on and make it happen before it's winter time again and we all stuck.
Well, the one thing you don't want to do if you're going to go down to an event like that is be dusty. Or if you're going to Dallas, maybe you do want to be dusty, because Dusty May is going to the Dallas Mavericks. Breaking news out of left field. What was that? Monday morning, JT, that
I think so. Yeah.
that came out. It was
Yeah. It was definitely unexpected. Obviously, Dusty May just coming off winning the national championship with the University of Michigan, kind of the face of this new era of college kind of elite college head coaches that kind of run in the same circle. Kind of all came from humble beginnings. Obviously, Dusty May is friends with guys like Josh Schertz, Ben McCollum. So I think ultimately my first reaction to this hiring, aside from it just kind of being unexpected, is that at the end of the day, the NBA is still king. Now, it kind of humbled me a little bit because obviously I'm more of a college guy, not so much of an NBA guy, and as the college fan and seeing how the game is evolving, I don't always see the incentive for these guys to jump up to the NBA. It feels like you don't really see it that much anymore. But it's clear that at the end of the day, the NBA is still king. At least some college coaches still covet these positions. Obviously, there are some that don't. So I guess it'll be interesting to see how Dusty does. Obviously, he's got a great roster to work with. He drafted one of his own guys from Michigan to Dallas, so it's clearly a situation where he felt that it was the right fit. So I guess we'll just have to see how Dusty does with the Mavs.
well, I think it's really important to note that he's gone from taking a school with basically no resources in FAU all the way to the Final Four right before like the NIL deal kind of really exploded, and then went to Michigan. And granted, Juwan Howard did really great his first couple years, but he clearly kind of lost control of the locker room, so to speak. There in the last couple years, they won 8 games his final season, and Dusty May within 2 years after taking that Michigan job, after leading FAU to the Final Four, took that team all the way to a national championship. And JT, if I can circle back to the Ken Palm ratings, they were technically one of the top 3 teams to ever be assembled since whenever those rankings started back in like 1999 or something like that. So they're one of the greatest teams to ever be assembled. Yeah, they had some help from the NIL, and then that makes you wonder if his quick ascent in this type of environment made him realize that maybe he's more suited for, coaching grown men that are making $60 million
It's a good
a
point.
year.
It's a good point.
If he can handle, some guys like Luxembourg and all those, Mara and all those guys, and lead them to be as dominant as they were. JT, the more I look back on it, I'm glad Iowa State did not have to play them, because
It would have gotten ugly.
I feel like that would have been a more disheartening loss. Yeah, you would have made the Elite Eight, but you probably would have got the can opened on you. So it's just interesting to see that he's decided within 3 years of making a Final Four and then winning a national championship with a different team. We've all had this ascent playing the video game, but we've never had the opportunity to jump to the big leagues, and it's clearly a different game nowadays than what it used to be.
Yeah, and I want to jump back real quick to just something you said. I think it's a really good point about how, kind of one of the barriers that used to prevent college coaches from either being interested or maybe having the skills to jump up to the next level was the fact that, there was just, but back 10, 15 years ago, these guys were coaching unpaid players, maybe not as much ego, not as much money in the locker room. Now are these college coaches starting to gather the skills that they used to not be able to have, because they are dealing with guys that are making it a bunch of money, and you are dealing with these superstars. There's a little more ego in the locker room. So that could lead to more
Milan
kind of
Momcilovic
crossover
is going to make
too.
$7 million next year.
Yeah.
And
So
granted, he's
not
not an ego player, but still.
I'm chomping at the bit to get in here on this one, fellas.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, go for it, baby.
This man is walking so future coaches can run. Like, he is a trendsetter on this one. You're gonna start to see this more and more. I've heard several different things about why he left, and part of it I heard had something to do with some of the financial aspects that what he was being given as a coach. But just for his ascent through the college basketball ranks into the NBA, I was told that the Dallas Mavericks have decided that they want to go with a championship pedigree. They wanted a new coach, somebody who hasn't been in the NBA.
They did fire Nico Harrison, right?
Yeah, I believe he's been fired by now. So, basically they got a new ownership, and the new ownership was like the Celtics. They wanted a return on investment immediately. They did a fire sale. So this is the beginning of them actually trying to turn into an NBA franchise again. My man has a great pedigree. He's coming straight out of the college ranks, and we've got a system now where, because of COVID, a lot of these players are coming in. I call more Tim Duncan ready. They played 3-4 years in college. They've got.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
They should. Most of these players should be plug and play. I think 5 years from now, we'll be looking at this draft class, and we'll be like, there's so many stars who came out of this draft class. And again, this goes back to the negatives and positives of COVID. It has its ups and it has its downs. It has its pluses. It has its minuses. But I think we're going to start to see this trend a lot more. You're going to see a lot of college basketball coaches that give up the college ranks and just go pro because we're already giving them a bag in college. I might as well go up to the big leagues and deal with that and get my bag as well as the coach. So I think I hope that he has a good tenure in Dallas. My thing with any of these coaches or any of these players going to the Western Conference, the Western Conference is like the Hunger Games, bro. It's not going
good luck.
The first in the Western Conference. So.
You're fighting for third right now.
I mean, you might be fighting for 11th. Like, look how deep the West
Facts.
Conference is, bro. Like, I think Houston was like the
Oh
fifth or
no, that's right. The Wolves.
yeah,
Oh
like
man.
everybody in the Western Conference is tough right now. So if he was going to like an East Coast team, I'd be like, he might be coach of the year next year. But going to Dallas in that conference right now is diabolical work.
I mean, they put him in the middle of Texas. If he doesn't like San Antonio, Dusty May could always be in his ear, be like, "Hey, look what I did."
Right. And like I said, I hope the best for him, and I hope this is a trend that we start to see moving forward. Because I think you're going to see a lot more college basketball coaches that it was like when he won the championship, he had to basically gave him like 2 hours, and then you got to start recruiting again for the next season. You can't even, rest on your laurels or enjoy your victories because it's a constant job. We're in the NBA, once we get to the draft, you get a couple months to have a break. So I think you're going to start to see more college coaches going to the NBA just because of the hustle and bustle of what college basketball is becoming.
Juice, you made me think of an interesting question here. I want to ask both of you. Do you think any coach is satisfied at the end of the day? Maybe not necessarily in college sports because that's a little different, but in like a professional setting, so like the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, the MLB, if you don't lead your team to like a championship or like on the cusp of a championship with hope, would would you consider that season for you as like a manager a failure, or how would you two like evaluate that season?
I think at the end of the day, we all want to win. Like you get paid to win, you get more money to win, you get accomplishments, you get championships, you get trophies. But you also have to look at the circumstances of your season. Like as a Niners fan, I look at last season. We had more than 12 wins as a team. We made it to the playoffs, and like 90% of our roster was injured. And I had to look at the
Mm,
positive. And we got backups coming in. They're getting reps. We getting more depth. More players are coming in. The coaching is immaculate right now to be able to coach around those type of deficiencies. So you have to look at every season at the end of it, in a glass bottle. And you have to look at it from game one to the last game of the season. Like everybody's trying hard. So if you were a team that was under 500 and you made the playoffs, I look at that as a success. If you was a team that had, 40, 50% of your team injured and you made it to the playoffs, you have to look at that as a success because other teams will evaluate that as well. Like I hear all the time how people want Shanahan to be fired from the 49ers. But the thing is, if he gets fired from the 49ers, you can probably pack about 20 other coaches up just to be aligned to get him as the head coach. So with that being said, everybody's working hard. Everybody's trying to get an advantage or a leg up against the next person, but each season got to be evaluated based on what you did, where you were, and where you was trying to go. And it can't always be a championship season. And you have to be mature enough to understand that at the end of the day.
JT.
And I guess I'm going to kind of shift this a little bit, just to kind of transition to our next transition out to our next topic. Obviously, not to stray too much away from the NBA side of it when it comes to the Dusty May hiring. But I we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about kind of the other side of the conversation, and that of course is the University of Michigan losing their basketball coach. For a little bit there, we thought that there might be a full-blown coaching search, but pretty quickly that they decided to go to Mike Boynton to kind of hire him as the interim head coach, which, I mean, really that's all you can do when it's June and you've lost your coach.
June
The
26th.
portal's closed. Obviously, there is the rule where if a team loses their coach, the players can enter the portal. obviously there would be nowhere for these guys to go, so it wouldn't really make sense for them to go anywhere. So that's all parties kind of really making the only decision that they can make. We'll just have to see what Boynton's able to do with a higher level program. Obviously, we saw Boynton for a few years in the Big Ten or in the Big 12, being the head coach at Oklahoma State. Kind of a pretty mediocre run at Oklahoma State, kind of marred with some harsh NCAA sanctions. So I guess we'll see if Boynton can do anything more with Michigan. I don't know if he's going to be able to do anything to get the permanent job next year, which obviously gets us into a really interesting conversation,
Yep.
for another day.
I know where you're going with this.
But yeah, you could see a guy like like Josh Schertz getting that Michigan job. So again, that's a conversation for another day. I guess where do you think I was going to go with that?
Well, if it was the fact that they was coming off a
Oh wait, no, I wasn't going to go there. Josh. I know that's
no, I at this point it could be any three of our coaches,
right? Because at this point,
here in the Midwest,
he's just a placeholder because they're coming off a championship. So the only way he wins the head coaching job is if they win another championship this year. Otherwise,
if they make a Sweet 16, they'll be all right.
Yeah, I would say that's about the limit as well. And obviously, it's one of those things where I think you're probably right, Juice, that keeping him kind of no matter what is probably the wrong decision. But there's just some times where you kind of get boxed into keeping your interim head coach. Look what happened to Texas. Rodney Terry went on that run after Chris Beard. Fired. He just did too good of a job where you couldn't get rid of him, and of course it set the Longhorns back. So you're right. You're right. It really wouldn't make any sense even if he makes a championship, you probably should fire him. But of course, there's still the fact of you have a roster to manage, you have a fan base to manage, and those fan bases, those big donors, they can fall in love with these interim coaches real quickly.
Well, at that point, then there's other factors. There's the fans buying into him as a coach, the players buying in.
Absolutely.
So interim usually got quotes around it for a reason. A lot of time those dudes do become head coach, but from the time that they coach got plucked and this close to the draft, interim is just we have to have somebody be the coach until we get something figured out months down the road.
The last team that I can remember this happening to would have been Fred Hoiberg with Iowa State, but that was back in May, and that was almost 12 years ago that happened. Right. And it was a totally different landscape. And if you go back and look at the interviews with those players, if they could have transferred, they would have transferred, but it wasn't an option then.
Well, to piggyback on Jay's point, look at Michigan. Look at the fact they just had a whole bunch of their top players drafted. They just came off a championship. The coach leaves, and now we got an interim head coach. It's a cold world, no blankets, fellas.
Well, and I guess, Josh, that kind of reminded me because there's actually, I was trying to think of when the last time a college coach left for an NBA job. This actually happened within the last 5 years to Michigan, where Jim Beilein? Yeah, John Beilein. He left Michigan to coach the Cavaliers, and which turned out to be just a dreadful decision. I mean, I don't even think that Beilein made it the whole season. Let me see if I can see what his head coaching.
Dre, what's your John Beilein knowledge?
But Cleveland is not a place where you can do that kind of thing. Like the city of Cleveland and their sports teams, you have to have somebody who knows what they're doing. Because if you give it to a novelist, though, that city will eat those people alive because they've had so much disheartening things happen to them in sports that they really don't have time to let you heat up in a microwave. You need to be hot when you get there.
Yeah, it looks like John Beeline resigned after 54 games in Cleveland, and that was the 2019-2020 season. And then, of course, Fred Hoiberg left Iowa State for Chicago in the summer of 2015. And I don't
Yeah.
know, I can't
So
think off the top of my head if there's been any more instances of a college head coach jumping to the NBA.
I mean, obviously, there's like your Billy
Well,
Donovans and your Brad
Right.
Stevens. Um, and I guess we're not giving those guys enough credit. I want to say Dagnall came from a college ranking at some point. You'd have to check
He
me
was
on
the head
that.
coach.
I don't know if he was a head coach, but I think he might have started out as like a. I don't know. You'd have to check out his history, but I think he has a college background somewhere. But I mean, it's obviously a hit and miss with some of these guys. But once again, we're kind of entering a new era where I've been paying guys $7 million for the last 4 years, and you know what? Guess what? It was a pretentious 18-year-old that scored 3 points a game for me. Like, you think I'm worried about having to, coach like a Jalen Brunson hard
well,
or
my
a
question is,
LaMelo Ball hard? Like, these guys are making $60 million, and I know they want to win.
would you rather win a championship in college and have to start recruiting the day after or the night that you win the championship? Or would you rather win an NBA championship, have the draft happen, and then have like 3, 4 months to recharge your batteries? Like, it's going to become a
Oh,
way your decision to go to the NBA than to deal with college basketball, specifically college basketball. I think with football, it's more of a thing where you kind of have to always be in the mix about what's going on. But with the way that college basketball is set up in this NIL,
It
you
gets
don't
really
get no sleep.
quiet right now.
Yeah, you're not getting any sleep as a coach right now.
yeah, I think for Fred Hoiberg, it's pretty on the record of one of the reasons why he wanted to jump to the NBA is that he's always been pretty vocal about the fact he's not a huge fan of recruiting. And I did look it up. We were on the nose there on the last coaches to jump from NBA to college. Of course, we got Dusty May, John Beeline, Fred Hoiberg, and then Billy Donovan and
Yep.
Brad Stevens. And I did look up, and Mike Dagnall, he was an assistant at Florida before he
Oh,
got
take
the
it.
job with the Oklahoma City G League team, the Oklahoma City Blue. And then, of course, he was a assistant coach in OKC, and then eventually got the head job. So, yeah, I mean, really, when we look at it, you know, let's see the
It's
years.
rare. It's pretty
Yeah.
rare
If you're
that
looking at it's only happened 5 times in the last 13 years or so.
well,
So I guess
JT,
that's kind of sets it.
the other one that comes to mind is Tim Floyd.
Hmm.
He went to the Bulls as well from Iowa State.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not looking great for Iowa State coaches going to the Bulls.
Well, the whole thing is like, if you've ever driven from Nebraska to Chicago, you understand why so many people leave from Iowa and go to Chicago. It's literally the next state over.
That drive through Iowa is pretty dreadful
It's
sometimes.
pretty rough. It's not a good time.
Hey, but that drive through Nebraska going to Colorado is just as brutal, if not
Well,
worse.
it's
Like,
just
let's be honest.
very, very big thing. The only solace is knowing that you're going to a bigger city from where you started at.
God, it's horrible sometimes. All right, well, we're gonna keep this moving here. We're gonna try and get as much draft coverage from the NBA draft in here as we can in the last segment of the show. We're gonna start with the highest picked guy throughout the Midwest here, at least who we root for, and that'd be Bennett Sturts. JT, my first question I have for you is: Did you feel some sort of pride when you saw the Drake Bulldog patch on the inside of the jacket as an homage to Drake, like acknowledging that, hey, Like, I'm not just this team. I'm from all these schools.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I thought it was a really classy move by Bennett Sturts. Obviously, this last 365 days, in regards to Bennett Sturts has kind of been tough. You look at basically a guy who single handedly is responsible for what ended up being some of the best moments in my sports life, going to probably the one place I would have rather not seen him go, and so kind of having to root against him. So it was kind of nice that once it's all said and done, to see him kind of tip his cap to the Drake Bulldogs. And I like that Brian Harden, the Drake athletic director, put out a nice post, and Drake's social media put out a nice post. So yeah, I think it was cool for Bennett Sturts to kind of put that logo on there, along with, of course, that's his high school logo there. I think Liberty, Missouri is where he's from. And of course, the kind of place where he'd been the longest and probably where his heart will always be is Northwest Missouri State. Is
Right.
that second logo there. But of course, yeah, he was initially drafted by the Grizzlies and then was quickly traded to Oklahoma City, which I think is a pretty good landing spot for him. He could end up winning a ring here and getting to backing up an MVP. And I guess my one
Oh, I didn't even
overarching
think
point,
about that. I didn't even
my
think
one
about that.
overarching point about the NBA draft, that they need to get this thing figured out with the trades. Like they're doing a little bit better job of updating us after the fact, but playing this game where Bennett Sturts gets drafted with the Memphis Grizzlies hat, Joshua Jefferson gets drafted with the Minnesota Timberwolves hat. The NBA needs to do a better
Yeah.
job of locking these trades in. Like the
They did.
NFL does it perfectly.
That's been happening since I was a young Jet, and that's never gonna change.
Oh, the
It seemed
NFL has
like
it figured out.
yeah, it seemed like after the third pick, it's like you know that you're gonna trade this pick, man. Just don't even have to go up there. Like
Right, because I think the first one, it was Nate Ahmet, the guy from Tennessee, the guy that put Milan Momcilovic in a phone booth in the Sweet 16. He got drafted by the Heat, I think the 10th overall pick. He's got his Heat hat on, and he's doing his interview with Lisa Salters. And I think Lisa just kind of asked him, like, who are you actually talking to? And
yeah,
on the phone, and he's got his Heat hat on. He's like, yeah, I'm talking to the Bucks, because that's obviously that pick was a Giannis trade.
I'm having this interview. Like what the
Yeah.
hell?
So the NBA needs to get that figured out. It's a mess. It kind of, I don't want to say it like ruins it or taints it, but it takes
No,
a
it
little
definitely does. It takes
off
away
of
from the moment
yeah, it
because
takes away that this is like the biggest moment of these guys' lives, and they've got to spend the rest of their lives. I'm sure that picture that they get with Adam Silver gets framed and put on their mantle, and they have to deal with some team that they were on for 15 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
They just got to get it figured out.
Go ask Scottie Pippen about that kind of work. There's a picture with Scottie Pippen with a Supersonics hat on,
Yep.
and we all know how that draft went. So like, yeah, that's just something with the draft. It's not as bad in the NFL because they kind of like have the contracts negotiated for the most time with the top like 5 picks before then already. But yeah, I agree with you. The hat swap, and especially when you're talking about one team and you're in the midst of getting traded to another, it you really have to glaze both teams, and it doesn't seem fair. But I'm very proud of the young man, and I'm glad to see the lining of his jacket because I'm a firm believer. You don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And every one of those places that was on the inside of that jacket helped form and helped shape him into who he is as a player. Uh, Me being the person who pretty much created the transfer portal before it was a thing, every place that I went to, there's something that happened there, a person there, an experience there that helped guide and mold me to who I am at this point. And you're gonna start to see a lot of this. Like
yeah.
imagine when you first seeing, player introductions and they telling you they came from 3 different schools before they got to the NBA or the NFL.
Well, just
University of Georgia, University of Louisville, University of Kentucky, go Wildcats.
you bring up a good point, kind of, because we all kind of came to age in the era of high school players thinking that they were good enough to jump to the league right away. And outside of, and this, I guess it's probably something you could call the LeBron James phenomenon, but after everyone seen the leap that he made going to the league right away, like they were making documentaries and ESPN like feature stories and all these things following these these high school athletes, trying to jump right to the NBA. And how many of those guys after that like panned out? Like there's a reason that the NBA passed a rule that said you can't come out being this young. And now we've kind of reached the inverse side of that, where guys have spent 6 to 8 weeks or 6 to 8 years, in college, and they come out ready to go, ready to accept a role because they've made their money and they have no problem, stepping into that opportunity that a winning franchise could give them.
Yeah, like I said, with COVID, it made a lot of people grow up in college and actually have to do the work. They had to pay attention a lot more because of remote learning and things like that. And now you got players coming in the league, 22, 23 years old, like they used to be back when I was growing up. And these players came in way more defined because they had 4 or 5 years to build a skill set and to play around like-minded competition. So hopefully this leads to, a lot of these players becoming very good players in the league because, we already know what their potential is and they have a smaller ceiling to hit.
JT, before we hear from you, the one thing I do want to point out is that the NCAA did accept that 5 for 5 rule.
Mm-hmm.
So that clock starts at 19 now, no matter what.
No matter what, you at a junior college. I don't know how long that's going to stand though, because the way that the rule currently is, there's no medical red shirts.
No, that's including red shirts. You get 5 years. So if you tear your ACL and you're out 2 years, that's it. You get 5 years from the day you turn 19. You have 5 years to play college sports, and that's it.
It's going to lead to a lot of appeals, man, because you're going to have so many players because your recovery time is included in that.
Yeah. So what you're describing is you're leading towards a collective bargaining agreement.
Because if you like with Odell Beckham when he got injured in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, that's the last game of the season. It's feasibly going to take him twice as long to come back from that injury, especially with football.
Yes, you are correct in that statement, but Odell Beckham also is represented by the NFL Players Association, which has a collective bargaining agreement with the NFL itself. So he gets paid outright because of the collective bargaining. It comes back to the Brendan Sorsby situation where you can't just file injunctions because you gambled and got caught. Like the NCAA is going to have to play by different rules, or they're going to have to put some rules in place so that it don't matter how much you get paid. Like if you're expected to show up to work, you better show up to work.
Okay, I'm gonna hijack the conversation, get us back on track here. We're running out of time.
Yeah, that comes in the IL deals and stuff like that. But yeah, this is all going to have to be addressed in the near future. So
absolutely.
Yeah, and just kind of quickly to sneak in our last point, getting back on the NBA draft. Of course, the other big first round pick, Joshua Jefferson, was drafted to Brooklyn. So cool to see another Cyclone in the first round. Of course, the last first round pick since Tyrese Halliburton. So those were kind of the two main ones. Tamin Lipsey did not end up getting drafted. We might mention. Okay, so we are going to kind of get into the these. Are you ready? We can kind of rattle.
Yeah, we can fire through them.
Okay, so obviously those are the two guys that got drafted. Taman Lipsey, he went to sign whatever the summer league exhibit 10, I think is what they call him, contract with the Pacers. He's gonna link up with Tyrese Halliburton, and then our next one
Your other pacer.
is yeah. So,
Oh,
and then we've
excuse
got
me.
then
Excuse
we've
me.
got Sam. We got some Nebraska flair here. We've got Sam Hoiberg signing exhibit 10 with Phoenix.
I don't know what these Exhibit 10 contracts are. Are they just summer league contracts?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's basically you're on a summer league team. All right, here we go.
Yeah, and then you've got
There's
another
your boy.
Nebraska guy, Rink Mass, signs an exhibit 10 with the Pacers. So we've got a lot of rooting interest with the Pacers if they keep those guys. One guy from Iowa signed an exhibit 10, Brendan Hassan, signed with the Grizzlies. Didn't really play a whole lot, but his game actually might be a little more suited to the NBA.
And then the last one I got here.
Last one is of course we got Josh Dix, who formerly of the University of Iowa, most recently a Creighton Blue Jay, signs a deal to join Bennett Sturts with the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I think in my opinion, it seems like all those guys got pretty good landing spots. Well, I don't exactly know what the likelihood of any of these guys catching on is, but nice to see kind of the big four power conference teams of kind of our coverage area getting a little bit of love in the NBA draft and the summer league.
Where is Indiana's like G League team? Are they there?
Are they in Fort Wayne these days? Are they the Mad Ants? Yeah.
I was gonna say it'd be interesting if they were to open like an Iowa or an Omaha division.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They just recently moved up to Noblesville, Indiana. Yeah, they were in Indiana. They were the Mad Ants, but they moved them closer to Indianapolis. Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, we got expansion teams coming, so we might actually get our Iowa affiliated. It seems like we're seemingly becoming a pipeline to the NBA. But shout out to all those guys, man. Just go out there and work hard and go get you a contract, man. The NBA is changing and evolving to the point where players who coming in season are actually getting a shot. So go out there, work hard, do your due diligence, and you might be an injury away from making it to an NBA team.
Yeah, I'm just looking at these Exhibit 10 contracts. It looks like the hook with these Exhibit 10 contracts is that it allows teams to retain a player's G League rights if they are waived. So basically, any of these guys who sign these Exhibit 10
They
deals,
basically have a fallback contract.
yeah, they have a good fallback to play in the G League. So that's a good opportunity for all those guys. It seems like they're gonna at least get their shot in the G League at the absolute worst.
And I know those guys don't make great money, but I mean, you could still make an easy 100,000 a year.
Yeah, it's definitely better than it used to be.
Playing some G League basketball, and who knows? You could be the next Curtis Jones, or you could be, I can't think of. He's the only guy I can think of that came off of an Exhibit 10 there originally that made it as of recent. Juice, anyone else come to mind for you that came up off of a two-way contract?
There's always a few players in the playoffs that what I'm saying, and he was on a two-way contract and things like that.
Wasn't old boy from Miami on a two-way at one point?
Yeah, Miami seems to get a lot of players like that, but like with the way that their roster is currently constructed, they're gonna have to look outside the box for players like that anyway, just to fill out the roster a little bit. There's only so many contracts and so many teams, and everybody don't deserve to get a bag. You can't just be giving people Timofey Mozgov bags out here.
I think both Luka Garza and AJ Green from UNI were two-way contract guys that ended up working out for him. So definitely good precedent with these guys that played in Iowa.
Yeah, it's I guess we'll just have to wait and see what they got going on. Unfortunately,
Yes, sir.
we're gonna have to wait and see how it plays out for everybody. But I know we're not huge NBA fans here. I guess one more question I do have for you guys before we leave. We're gonna try and light some stoves on fire. Does LeBron James come back as a Laker next year, or does he get traded? Or does he do a sign and trade? Actually, I just thought about the sign and trade option.
I'm thinking it's either sign and trade or he signs flat out to either Cleveland, uh, Golden State, or possibly a team like Dallas. But I think the best bet would be for him to stay with the Lakers and take a pay cut, or to go back to Cleveland.
That's what I think. I think he'll stay in Los Angeles. I think he'll hang it up in Los Angeles.
I think ultimately he's gonna stay. He's not taking a pay cut. He's almost kind of made it clear at this point that he's not taking a pay cut.
And that's what I'm saying. If you're not going to take a pay cut, you might as well go to Cleveland. Cleveland got money to give away like that. The Lakers need to construct the championship team.
So that would be the point where you would do a sign and trade. I don't think you're gonna have James Harden and LeBron James on the same team and expect to win a championship. There's just no way that's ever gonna happen.
Yeah, I think LeBron James will probably end up choking James Harden at some point during the season.
We're gonna come to the penultimate portion of this show where I once again say we've all played 2K before and we've all tried to put James Harden and LeBron James on the same team at some point playing over the years, and that team just never seems to perform the way you think it would. So
Choke artist when it comes to big time games. He can put up like 50 and 14 in a game, but when it comes to like game 7, it's on the line. He's gonna have too many turnovers. He's too worried about lemon pepper wings instead of what he need to be doing on the court.
JT, you want to get on it? You want to get on
No,
this?
I was just gonna say, just the weirdest thing. I don't know if anybody uses Basketball Reference. I pulled up LeBron's Basketball Reference page, and at some point in his career, he's been listed at all 5 positions.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know how that like. So his first year, he was listed as a shooting guard. Obviously, for many years after that, he was listed as a small forward.
Yep.
They got him a few years as a power forward in Miami.
Yep.
And then 1 year in Los Angeles as a center. And then
yes,
he went back
so that was Juice.
Correct.
Juice, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was 2022 when they had 4. They had like 4 shooters and literally no. You know what? I think that might have been the year that DeMarcus Cousins destroyed his knee.
Yeah, he tore his quadricep. Yeah,
and he was supposed to come back and play center for them, so they didn't have anybody to play center. So LeBron just said "fuck it" and literally lined up his center every night. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I just seen a video within the last week of a montage of him just giving up, doing jump balls. Like he played legit center. He did the jump balls and everything. He just started walking away, facing some guys. They would throw the ball up, and he would just turn around and go back and play defense. He wouldn't even try at a certain point.
6'9", average like center is like 6'11", 7 feet. Like I know I'm playing out of position, but if Draymond's got to do it, I guess we all got to do it.
And then the year that he was point guard was I'm almost positive that was the year they won the championship, wasn't it?
I believe it was because the Lakers was
he averaged like almost 11 assists a game, or between 10 and 11 assists a game.
Man, if you look,
he won the assist title.
Yeah, if you looked at him in high school, you pretty sure he's been playing all 5 since he was like 8 years old.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not. There's no question about it. But yes, he technically has played. He technically has played all 5 positions, and he's made all NBA at all 5 positions. I think we should reiterate that.
Well, man has had 4 different Hall of Fame careers, but that's a conversation for another time.
JT, you and I were still in single digits in age when he came into the league. And
I've been
now
looking
we're
all
at-
over for that picture on him, or I'm in his jersey, but I can't find the damn thing.
My mom's probably got it. I'll have to hit a BR and tell her to find that. She's got nothing but time. She's retired, so she's got all the time in the world.
There you go.
Well, fellas, with that being said, let's hit up these sponsors one more time and get ready to land this plane.
Yeah, once again, a quick shout out to Josh Dix. Good for him. We're gonna roll with that for a minute.
Midwest, getting all these in the league, or at least attempting to.
And then speaking of the Midwest, go check out Selfmade, the label hybrid.com. Shout out to Hybrid Promotions and Selfmade, the label music, for sponsoring the show. We're brought to you as always by Hybrid. Some big shows coming up here. As always, use the code JT, the code SLIM, the code JUICE to get 15% off your first order from the store. And as I mentioned, big shows coming up here. We got the SummerSlam coming up on July 11th. Again, this is the second day of a 2-day festival down at the waiting room. Brody One, Selfmade's own, will be there. Oh, Crooks will be there as well. And then Cody Moon, as well as Eddie North, Zarati, OG Kid, and many more. If you're looking for something to do that weekend after the 4th of July, this would be a great event to get out to go and support. Get your tickets now. Get them early while they're cheap. Don't wait till the last minute. You're going to want to be there. With that being said, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. I'm going to pass it off to one of you guys to close it out. I've been doing it for the last couple of weeks, and I'm kind of tired of it.
I can land the plane. I can land the plane.
Go ahead, JT.
Yeah, appreciate everybody listening tonight. It was a big week of news, and we weren't able to get it to y'all this week. So stay tuned next couple of weeks. A lot more things to talk about. Valley tournament changing. Jack Trice serving beer. NFL cornerbacks are getting arrested for kidnapping. A lot more to talk about in the upcoming week. So for Slim, Uncle Juice, I'm JT. This has been Friday Night Lights, and we'll see you guys next week.